Welcome everyone. We are going to have an in-depth workshop on Kalpana Swaram singing. Some of you may have attended or viewed our previous Kalpana Swaram workshops. We had 2 of those already. Those were general workshops on different techniques for Kalpana Swaram singing. So if you are looking for general tips and techniques, I would highly recommend that you view the highlights we have put up on YouTube. The links on the chat box. We also have the full Kalpana Swaram workshop recording, past workshop recording available for purchase. So Hamsadhwani Raga, Adi Tala. Can anybody guess what the song is?
Vatapi Ganapatim.
Good. So let's start with how to approach Kalpana Swarams. So when you look at Kalpana Swarams, there are 2 important aspects that you will need to keep in mind. One is to build the Kalpana Swaram. The second aspect is to end the Kalpana Swaram so that it seamlessly comes and fits into the eduppu or starting point of the song. So coming back to this Vatapi Ganapatim, it is very simple and straightforward eduppu. Vatapi Ganapatim Bhajeham. So it is starting on the beat. So that is called Sama eduppu. Samam is where the music synchronizes perfectly with the underlying rhythms. The second component of Kalpana Swarams is basically building the Kalpana Swaram. So you have to build the Swaram, you have to end it. Both are important. When you start off as a beginner, many times students struggle with both in different measures. It depends on, for example, how many compositions you've learnt, your prior listening exposure and so on. So when you build the patterns, it has to be something interesting where you can focus on a note or you can do zigzag patterns in terms of building. Many times when we start, we tend to sing more sequential. Rasiga, Riga, Pa, Ga, Pa, Ni, Pa, Ni, Sa. Those are easier for beginners to Kalpana Swarams and nothing wrong with that. As we gain experience, our Kalpana Swaram patterns become more sophisticated. In today's workshop, we are going to focus a lot on the endings because many times students don't realize that when you get strong with the endings, your overall approach to Kalpana Swarams becomes more confident. If you know that you can end it properly with the tala, then you are more likely to enjoy the whole process of Kalpana Swaram singing and sing the Arohanam Avarohanam. Sariga pani
Sariga Pani Sa.
Most musicians would start off with slow speed Kalpana Swarams, sing a whole bunch of slow speed, and after every Kalpana Swaram, they would give a turn to the co-artist, which is typically the violinist. And the violinist does not play the same. Since it is Kalpana or imagination, the violinist can play his or her own Kalpana Swaram. Many times they take cues from the vocalist or the lead performer and they build on those lines to create their own Kalpana Swaram spontaneously. So both the vocalist and the violinist, assuming it's a vocal concert, will spontaneously sing the Kalpana Swarams. Longer ones also. Many times for beginners, the short ones are tricky because you need to smartly end quickly and come back to Vatapi Ganapatim. We often tend to overshoot and go on to the next Avartana. It is a very common thing. So the best way to practice Kalpana Swarams is write out like 4 or 5 or maybe even 10 4-note endings. First practice the endings, then try to fill the gap with spontaneous patterns and end with 4-note pattern. Vatapi Sari Gari Sani Pagari Vatapi. Yes, Shreya, go ahead.
Vatapi
Excellent. So coming to your question, again, you are allowed to do any kind of jumping as long as you adhere to the bhava or grammar of that particular raga.
All permutations and combinations are allowed per the rules of the raga and the Kalpana Swarams for it.
I said in Hamsadhwani, ga pa ni re ni pa, skipping the sa, ga pa ni. So you can also do elongated notes. So in every raga, there are certain swaras which are known as the life-giving notes or jiva swaras. Sujata, go next. Another 6-note pattern. First we will do the Konnakol. Again, see, I am changing the rhythm here. Vatapi. takkitta, takkitta, vatapi. So I'm talking about 5 times 3. What does it mean? It means you're having 3 patterns of 5 notes each. So as we saw earlier, one cycle of Adi Talam will fit in 16 swaras in the slow speed. The rhythmic pattern is going to be like this. Tadingenatum, 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 vatapi.
Gari sani pari sani paga sani pagari paga.
Correct. So that is rarely going to be a Kalpana Swaram by itself. Once you get adept with first speed, you can apply to the second speed. Again, second speed Kalpana Swaram singing is a little trickier because you are now going to have to fit in 4 notes per beat. Maintain the same speed, but you are going to sing at double the speed. So many times we may lose track of the tala quickly. So if you want to do, for example, the 5 note pattern, in the slow speed we had tadingenatum vatapi. The fast speed, tadingenatum vatapi. You can have a leading 3 note Korvai or a gap, so that the total comes to 8, which is why I have mentioned it as 3 plus 5. You ultimately want a 5 note pattern, but you don't want to go crazy figuring out where to start, because it's going to be tam, tadingenatum. When you have that leading tam, right, which takes up 3 beats, then it's going to be a total of 8. Gariga, sariga pa, gari sari pa, sariga pa ni pa, gari sari pa ni, sari baga pa, ba sari bagari gaga. So after the correct, I'll do some general singing like this, and then end with the final Korvai. Re sa ni sa ni ba, gari sa ni ba, re sa ni ba ga, sa ni ba gari sa ni ga, re ga pa ni, sa re ga pa ga, re ga pa ni sa ni ga re sa ni pa ga ri ba ga, re ba ga re pa ga ri re Vatapi Ganapatim Bhajeham. So coming to the final Korvai, that also has an underlying rhythm. It is the same rhythmic pattern that is repeated thrice. You should start doing that ear training, because when you become good at Swaranyanam, then you will be able to do the Manodharma aspects really well. So with that, let us conclude today's workshop. Thank you all so much. It was very interesting for me. I learned a lot as well. Namaste.